future of things. I think I've given you guys a really good background to Afghanistan, and I've given you guys a really good background to the way that I feel about this country. My thesis on the future of Afghanistan is that the only way for this to work, and I'm going to bring this up. So I brought up the guy by the name of Ahmad Shah Massoud earlier, right, who was a general who was killed 2 days before 9/11, who was basically a champion for democratic rights in Afghanistan and is just like very widely respected amongst the Afghani people. He has a son. His son's name is Ahmad Massoud. He was obviously there when his father died. He was educated in England. He came back to Afghanistan, unlike a lot of the other politicians who just dipped. He came because he saw that this country needed his help. And Afghanis are calling him like predestined to follow in his father's footsteps and to be able to possibly take that next step to having that democratic country of Afghanistan, etc., etc. I don't know too much about Ahmad Massoud, I'm going to be honest. But apparently everyone is saying that this guy is the next big leader. And he is going to have to, he basically has the pressure of a nation on his shoulders to get rid of this militaristic Taliban force that is completely armed and that continues to gain power by the day. I mean, that's a challenge and a half. I mean, shit. Like, I don't know how he's going to do it. I don't know if he's the guy. I don't know if he wants to do it. I mean, we'll have to see how this whole thing plays out, but I think they need a leader. You need a leader who is willing to rise up to the challenge, who's willing to rise up to the Taliban, and who has resources and money to be able to be like, and Western powers backing him, maybe not the United States of America, because Joe Biden has made an utter, complete fool and mockery of himself with this whole situation. But maybe he'll have other Western powers to back him up. Maybe he'll have other people. We'll see what happens. This is going to be like a whole situation. But I think it doesn't rest completely in Ahmad Massoud's hands. I think it also comes down to the youth of Afghanistan. It comes down to the kids. This is the problem with the kids of Afghanistan. And there's not like an actual problem. Literacy rates are so low in this country because of the fact that girls literally are banned from going to school and boys get pulled out of school very early so that they go to religious schools and they basically enroll them in religious schools, which are led and instructed by the Taliban. And basically these poor young boys and girls to an extent are brainwashed that this is their normal lives, that this is normal, that the Taliban life is the normal life. And so you have a whole generation of Taliban fighters that literally weren't born before the war began, but now they are. Now they're here, and they believe the Taliban is the only way, that Islamic militarism is the only way to reaching, it's normal. Islamic militarism is the normal culture, is what they were taught for so long. That is not the case, guys. I mean, the literacy rates are low because the Taliban want to educate the country of Afghanistan to believing that what they're doing is right. Basically propaganda, brainwashing. So unfortunately, as much as I like to preach, this is about the youth, a lot of the youth is not educated in this country and is not properly educated. Even if the youth that are educated to believe that militarism is the way to go, which is a scary thought. And so my thesis of it comes down to the youth, and it's going to come down to Ahmad Massoud and somehow getting some Western help to rescue this situation, and it's going to turn into a civil war. We all know that's where it's headed. It's going to be another civil war, as much as we hate to say it. But I think it does rest in the youth. The future of Afghanistan is going to rest in the next generation. It's going to rest in the people like Malala. Obviously Malala grew up in Pakistan and she was fighting for girls' education when they were controlled by the Taliban, but similar idea. It's going to rest in people like that. And there's this group of, girls who were in some robotics competition. This is like a headline I scanned. I don't even know the truth of it, but they're basically called the Afghan Dreamers. And it's this group of 8 girls who are super into robotics. And obviously are educated, and they did like really well at some competition. I'll look it up. I'll do more research into it, but it's a beautiful story. And that gave me a little smile on my face, because maybe that is the hope. Maybe that's the hope for this country, is that it's going to be small little groups of people who are, educated, and that come together and band together and bring the other civilians along with them to maybe reaching a brighter light and maybe reaching a future that they could be proud of, and a democratic nation. But it's a long, long, long road ahead. And I'm not saying that I have the answers. And I'm saying, I know I preach youth, 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 but it's going to be really, 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 really hard. And the youth, for a lot of them, are being educated by the Taliban. And that's not necessarily who you want to be educated by. So unfortunately, this just seems like it's going to be a problem for years to come. And we're going to have to just kind of see how this thing turns out. But it's going to be a very interesting story to follow. And yeah. So that's my thesis on the future of Afghanistan. But I want to talk about